When the race stops but humanity takes the wheel, these heart-melting moments in motorsport prove that true champions race with compassion. 1. When heroes emerge from flames. Let's start with a moment that redefined what it means to be a hero in motorsport. November 29, 2020, Bahrain International Circuit, a date that will forever be etched in Formula One history, not for a spectacular win, but for a miraculous survival. Romain Grosjean's Haas car split clean in half after piercing through safety barriers at 137 miles per hour, erupting into a massive fireball that had everyone fearing the worst. But here's where this story transforms from tragedy to triumph. While Grosjean fought his way out of the burning wreckage, a team of marshals rushed toward the inferno without hesitation. Among those heroes was Joby Matthew, a Malayali marshal from Rani in India's Pathanamthitta district, who along with Bahraini Marshal Thayer Ali Taher became the first responders to reach the blazing car. These weren't professional firefighters. They were volunteer marshals who chose to run toward danger when every instinct screamed to run away. But wait, the most heart-melting part was yet to come. Just 4 days later, something extraordinary happened that would bring grown men to tears. Grosjean, with bandaged hands and still recovering from his ordeal, made a special return to the paddock. But this wasn't about getting back in a car. This was about gratitude. Thank you for saving my life. Your reaction, your attitude. I saw the video, your awareness of where I was in the car. I don't know how you got it. It must be in you. But thank you for saving my life, Grosjean told the marshals who had risked everything for him. As he handed each rescuer a signed replica helmet, there wasn't a dry eye in the paddock. This moment perfectly captured what makes racing special. It's not just about individual glory, it's about a community that protects each other. The Bahrain Crown Prince was so moved by the marshals' bravery that he ordered their immediate promotion, recognizing their courage and swift response. 2. The taxi ride that broke all the rules. Now, speaking of moments that captured hearts worldwide, let me tell you about the most expensive taxi ride in Formula One history, and why it was worth every penny of the penalty that followed. Singapore Grand Prix, 2013. Mark Webber's Red Bull decided to give up the ghost on the very last lap, leaving the Australian stranded at turn 7 with no way back to the pits. Most drivers would simply wait for a safety car pickup, but Fernando Alonso had a different idea. Picture this: the Spanish Ferrari driver, having just finished second in the race, spots his stranded competitor and does something that would make headline news around the world. Alonso stops his Ferrari right in the middle of the track and motions for Webber to climb aboard. What followed was pure magic. Webber hopping onto Alonso's side pod like a hitchhiker, giving photographers the shot of a lifetime as they cruised back to the pits together. The FIA wasn't amused. Both drivers received reprimands, with Webber getting a 10-place grid penalty for his next race because it was his third reprimand of the season. But here's what made this moment so special. Neither driver cared about the penalty. Great moment, and fans loved it, Webber defiantly posted on Twitter. Alonso's response was even better. He posted a photoshopped image of himself and Webber in an actual taxi with the caption, "Ready for Hollywood." The racing community rallied behind them, with Jenson Button tweeting, "Disappointed to see the penalties for Webber and Alonso. An act of sportsmanship should not really be punished." This wasn't just about giving a competitor a ride. It was about two warriors showing that respect transcends rivalry. In a sport where milliseconds determine winners and losers, these two men chose humanity over regulations, and racing was better for it. 3. When Ferrari made a 6-year-old's dream come true. Sometimes the most powerful moments in racing happen away from the track entirely. The 2017 Spanish Grand Prix gave us one such moment that would make even the toughest racing fans reach for tissues. 6-year-old Thomas Donnell was having the time of his life watching his hero Kimi Räikkönen race for Ferrari. But on the very first lap, disaster struck. Räikkönen's car suffered a mechanical failure, ending his race before it really began. The cameras caught young Thomas in the grandstands, tears streaming down his face as his racing dreams were crushed. Within hours, young Thomas found himself in the Ferrari paddock, face to face with his idol Kimi Räikkönen. The reserved Finn, known for his Iceman persona, completely melted when he met his youngest fan. Thomas got to watch the rest of the race from Ferrari's hospitality suite, celebrating with the team as if he'd been part of the family forever. F1 CEO. Chase Carey called it a special moment that demonstrated the sport's new freedom under Liberty Media's ownership. We got all this press about the little boy who got pulled down, and they did it on their own, having a sense of freedom that they wouldn't have had a year ago, Carey explained. For a home hero's finest hour, Mexico City, October 2022. The atmosphere was electric as hometown hero Sergio Perez stood on the podium alongside race winner Max Verstappen and second-place finisher Lewis Hamilton. But what should have been a celebration quickly turned uncomfortable as the crowd began booing Hamilton during his post-race interview. The seven-time world champion handled it with his characteristic grace, saying, "It has definitely been a bit awkward this time around with boos all day, but nevertheless, I have so much love for Mexico and for the people here." But in the background, something beautiful was happening that would define what true sportsmanship looks like. The gesture spoke volumes about Perez's character and the values that truly define a champion. As one racing journalist noted, Perez really did demonstrate an awful lot of class by sticking up for Hamilton, proving that he is a pure gentleman. This moment reminded us that in racing, your greatest victories often come not from what you do for yourself, but from what you do for others, even when those others are your biggest competitors. 5. The master's gesture of respect. Let's travel back to 2002 to one of the most controversial yet ultimately beautiful moments in Formula One history. The Austrian Grand Prix was unfolding exactly as everyone expected. Rubens Barrichello was dominating the race from the front, clearly the fastest man on the track that day. With just corners remaining, Barrichello was cruising to what would have been a well-deserved victory. But then, in a move that shocked the world, Ferrari ordered him to let teammate Michael Schumacher pass for the win. The decision was brutal and calculated. Schumacher was fighting for the championship, and Ferrari prioritized points over sentiment. The crowd was furious. Fans booed. Commentators called it outrageous. Barrichello was visibly heartbroken, having had victory snatched away at the last possible moment. It seemed like one of racing's ugliest moments, but Michael Schumacher, the man who had just inherited an undeserved victory, was about to show why champions are defined by their character, not just their speed. On the podium, Schumacher gently pushed Barrichello to the top step and handed him the winner's trophy. It was a gesture that said more than any words could. You were the real winner today. The master wasn't finished yet. Later that season at the U.S. Grand Prix, with his 5th championship already secured, Schumacher found himself leading Barrichello in the final meters of the race. 6th push to victory lane, Watkins Glen, August 2018. Chase Elliott had just achieved every NASCAR driver's dream. His first Cup Series victory after years of heartbreak and near misses. As he celebrated his breakthrough moment, disaster struck in the most ironic way possible. "I ran out of gas," Elliott laughed later. There he was, having just conquered his racing demons, coasting to a stop on what should have been his victory lap. For most drivers, this would be a devastating anticlimax to their greatest moment. But Elliott wasn't alone out there. 7-time NASCAR champion Jimmie Johnson spotted his stranded teammate and immediately knew what he had to do. "I pulled up alongside him to give him the thumbs up, and then I could see his car wasn't running as I drove away, so I backed up and helped him along," Johnson explained. What followed was one of the most iconic images in recent NASCAR history. Johnson pushing Elliott's car back to the front straightaway while the crowd went absolutely wild and Elliott pumped his fist in celebration. "Seeing Chase's arm pumping along the way was so cool as I was pushing him. The crowd was going crazy," Johnson recalled. For Elliott, having his childhood hero be the one to push him to victory lane made the moment even more special. Jimmy has been one of my heroes for a long, long time, Elliott said. When you have not only a fellow racer but a teammate and a guy who's done what he's done, take the time to lend me advice or just listen to what I had to say. That helps a lot. This moment perfectly captured the spirit of motorsport. Champions helping champions, veterans nurturing the next generation, and the understanding that some victories are bigger than any individual achievement. 7. The return of a legend. I just want to let you know how really proud I am to be here, Mansell said, clearly emotional. That's when they revealed it. His original championship-winning Williams FW14B, the car he'd driven to immortality 3 decades earlier, was waiting for him. The reunion between man and machine was pure poetry. Here was a driver who had given his entire life to the sport, being reunited with the tool that had made his dreams come true. The moment perfectly captured why we love racing. It's not just about the competition. It's about the dreams, the dedication, and the eternal bond between a driver and the machine that carried them to glory. Mansell's emotional reaction reminded everyone watching that beneath all the technology, strategy, and politics of modern racing, the sport is ultimately about human passion and the pursuit of dreams that seem impossible until they're not. 8. A young fan's blue hair and a surprise of a lifetime. The 2017 British Grand Prix gave us one of the most wholesome moments in recent Formula One history, proving that sometimes the smallest gestures create the biggest smiles. Young Oliver was just another face in the massive Silverstone crowd, but his dedication to his hero Valtteri Bottas made him impossible to ignore. Oliver had painted his hair blue to match Bottas's helmet colors, wore a Finnish flag, and even painted 77 on his face in support of the Mercedes driver. His enthusiasm was infectious, and when photographers captured his pure joy in the grandstands, it caught the attention of the Mercedes team. What happened next showcases why Mercedes has some of the best fan engagement in the sport. They tracked down Oliver and invited him to Mercedes-Benz World for what he thought would be a simple tour. "Welcome to Mercedes-Benz World, where today we are doing something different," the host announced, though Oliver had no idea just how different it would be. "I want to give you this one," Bottas said in a special video message, presenting Oliver with signed gear. 9. When rivals become brothers. Belgium, 2022. The racing was intense as Fernando Alonso and Lewis Hamilton battled wheel-to-wheel through the legendary Spa-Francorchamps circuit. Then, in the space of a few seconds, everything went wrong. Contact between their cars sent Hamilton spinning off track, ending his race and potentially damaging his championship hopes. In the heat of the moment, Alonso let his emotions get the better of him. "What an idiot, this guy only knows how to drive starting first," he radioed to his team, words that would be broadcast around the world. It was a harsh assessment that seemed to disregard Hamilton's incredible career and championship pedigree. But here's where this story transforms from controversy to class. By the time they reached the next race in the Netherlands, Alonso had done some serious soul-searching. What he did next showed the racing world what true sportsmanship looks like. First of all, Lewis is a champion. He's a legend of our time, Alonso declared in a heartfelt public apology. He didn't hide behind PR speak or make excuses. He owned his mistake completely. "I apologize. I was not thinking about what I said. I don't think that there was much to blame in that moment, to be honest, looking at the replays and everything, because it's a first-lap incident. We are all very close together." Alonso went even further, addressing the comments he'd made about Hamilton only winning from the front. No, I don't believe. I mean, it's not that I believe or don't believe. There are facts that it is not that way. So it's something that you say in the heat of the moment. But as I said, nothing that I said is true, or there are facts that are completely the opposite. So I have huge respect. This moment reminded us that even the greatest champions make mistakes, but it's how they handle those mistakes that truly defines their character. 10. Racing heroes in their darkest hour. Sometimes the most heart-melting moments in racing happen when everything goes wrong. At Australia's Phillip Island in 2020, what should have been just another supercars race turned into a demonstration of pure courage and brotherhood. But before the official rescue teams could reach him, someone else was already there. Alexandre Premat, the very driver who had inadvertently caused the crash. Despite potentially being injured himself, Premat immediately climbed out of his wrecked car and ran to help extract Courtney from the wreckage. Alex is gone just to try and help him get out, the commentator noted, amazed by the instant display of sportsmanship. He won't be getting out on the driver's side. He's going to have to somehow needle his way through there. Both drivers walked away from what could have been a career-ending accident, but what everyone remembered wasn't the crash. It was Premat's immediate instinct to help his fellow driver, despite being the one who'd caused the accident in the first place. In racing, accidents happen, but choosing to help your competitor before worrying about yourself, that's what separates good drivers from great human beings. 11. When legends save lives. No discussion of heart-melting racing moments would be complete without mentioning one of the most heroic acts in motorsport history. The 1992 Belgian Grand Prix at Spa-Francorchamps was proceeding normally during practice when everything changed in an instant. Eric Comas, the French Ligier driver, crashed heavily at the notorious Blanchimont corner, hitting the barriers at close to 200 miles per hour. The impact knocked Comas unconscious, but his foot remained pressed on the throttle, sending his engine screaming at maximum revs while fuel leaked dangerously around the wreckage. As other drivers slowed to navigate around the accident scene, one man made a split-second decision that would save a life. Ayrton Senna, arguably the greatest Formula One driver who ever lived, immediately stopped his car and sprinted across the track to reach the unconscious Comas. With complete disregard for his own safety, Senna dove into the wrecked Ligier, switched off the screaming engine, and began administering first aid before medical crews could arrive. In those crucial seconds, Senna's actions prevented what could have been a fatal fire and kept Comas stable until professional help arrived. Comas survived because of Senna's quick thinking and bravery. This wasn't about points, championships, or glory. This was about one human being risking everything to save another. It perfectly encapsulated what made Senna special. His speed on track was legendary, but his humanity off track was what made him immortal. 12. The most beautiful defeat. Finally, we come to perhaps the most controversial, yet ultimately beautiful moment in recent racing history. Abu Dhabi 2021, where Lewis Hamilton's quest for a record 8th World Championship ended in heartbreak. Hamilton had dominated the race, building what seemed like an unassailable lead over Max Verstappen. With just laps remaining, the Brit could almost taste that historic 8th title. Then Nicholas Latifi crashed, bringing out a safety car that would change everything. What followed was one of the most controversial decisions in F1 history, as race director Michael Masi made calls that effectively handed the championship to Verstappen on the final lap. Hamilton's dreams were crushed in the most brutal way possible, not through poor driving or bad luck, but through circumstances completely beyond his control. The natural reaction might have been anger, accusations, or even walking away from the sport entirely. Hamilton later admitted he lost a little bit of faith in Formula One that night, but what he did immediately after losing the championship showed why he is considered one of the greatest champions in any sport. "Big congratulations to Max and to his team," Hamilton said, walking over to congratulate his rival, despite his own heartbreak. The commentator observing the moment remarked, "Now that shows what sportsmanship should be between two legends," amazed by Hamilton's grace in defeat. This moment perfectly captured why racing gives us some of the most beautiful human stories. In a sport where winning is everything, Hamilton chose dignity over bitterness, respect over resentment, and sportsmanship over self-pity. Sometimes the most beautiful victories come when you lose with grace. The most heart-melting moments in racing often happen off the track, in acts of kindness, courage, and respect between competitors. Whether it's champions helping stranded rivals, legends risking their lives to save others, or fierce opponents showing grace in defeat, these moments reveal the true spirit of the sport. Racing isn't just about speed or trophies, it's about humanity, compassion, and the bonds formed under pressure. Behind every helmet is a person capable of extraordinary bravery and kindness. These stories remind us that the greatest victories are sometimes about how we treat each other when the racing stops. So, what are your thoughts on this? Let us know in the comments below. And don't forget to like and subscribe for more such content.